So the elements of art is going to be your first lesson in the OLS. That's 1.02 in the OLS. So the elements of art are the basic parts of things that make up works of art, including line, shape, so line meaning squiggle line, diagonal line, straight lines, spiral lines, shape meaning like there's two different types of shapes, geometric or organic. Geometric is sort of like square, triangle, etc. Organic is sort of like squiggle shapes. So line, shape, color. So we talk about color a lot in the OLS and in lecture, and then I have you watch some videos on it. You have primary colors, which is red, yellow, blue. You have secondary colors, that's your orange, green, purple. And then you have your tertiary colors that makes up the color wheel. You have analogous colors, which are colors that are right next to each other. Think of like blue, yellow, green. They're sort of like neighbors. Then you have the complementary colors, so the opposite colors, red and green, orange and blue, yellow, purple. Those are these color relationships. So we talk about the different types of color relationships, why certain colors are put next to each other, what artists are doing to sort of create this, they're using color to sort of create what they want to create. So, and then we have value, the lightness or darkness of something. Form, so that's two different types of form. We have implied form, so does something look 3D? Form, I want you to think 3D. So does it look 3D or is it 3D? So is it a sculpture that you can go up and touch? That's real form. Implied form is, does it look just like it's 3D? And then you have texture. So real texture, does something feel a certain way or does it just look like it feels a certain way? So real texture, and then implied texture. And then you have space. So positive space and negative space. All of this is in your vocabulary words and your OLS, and these are the things that we're going to talk about. The principles of design are the rules artists use for arranging the elements of art in artwork. So we have the elements of art, and then the principles of design is sort of how you communicate those elements of art. So proportion is size relationships between one thing to another. Pattern, movement, contrast, emphasis, balance, and variety. So proportion, size relationships from one thing to another. Pattern, it's something repeat. You guys know that from math class. A repeating element of art. So does like a series of diagonal lines. That would be line and pattern. Movement. Does it look like it's moving, or does it draw your eye to one area or another? Contrast. Really, really bright lights, really, really dark darks, or kind of just the relationship of colors to each other. Is everything around the same shade or the same lightness, or is one thing really bright and the other is really dark? So we'll talk about that a lot throughout the semester. Emphasis. Is the artist trying to make you look at one thing? What is the focal point? What is the artist focusing on? Balance, does everything look around the same around the piece of art, or is one thing bigger? So is it an asymmetrical balance, or is it equally balanced? And then variety, we can't have the same thing in a piece of art all the time. Or if there is if there's no variety in art, what's the point of that? So we talk about variety versus no variety, and the principles of design are going to help you become a better artist and help you pick out why art is good. So we'll talk about that. Speaking of looking at different types of art, the next lesson that you have is art history. So we talk about art throughout history, and whether it's grouped into periods, so a time period, think of like when we say Renaissance art or Baroque art, that is a time period. Then you have civilizations. So civilizations would be like when we talk about Egyptian art or ancient Chinese art or Mesopotamian art, ancient Greek art, Roman art. So those are civilizations. Those are groups of people that created this art. Then we have styles. So you have modern art is a style. Under that, you have impressionist art. You have romantic art. Sort of these artists, or there are these trends in art where a lot of people at one time were thinking that one thing looked good. So artists at that time thought this is the way to do art, and we could see it sort of as a trend, and then we group that art together. So Impressionism is a good way to think of that. Basically, just different times in art history. What does this period of art history look like? How would we categorize this particular piece of art? Why is it important that this art is identified with a certain time period, or a certain civilization, or a certain style? And why did people choose to create art that way? Why did the Egyptians create art the way that they did? A lot of it had to do with religion. Why did the Impressionists choose to paint things really loose? And why did they choose to paint a lot of flowers? These are all ideas all philosophies that we're going to answer throughout this semester. But we introduce it here. And then the last thing that I'm teaching you in this module is critiquing art. So art criticism is an organized approach to viewing, thinking about, and judging works of art based on, so judging art, being able to look at art and not just say, ugh, I don't like it. So you have to look at art and be able to judge it in a intelligent, focused way. And I want you to do that using the elements of art and the principles of design and the historical context. So what was going on in history at this time that made this art look this way? And we will talk about this in lecture during week 3, and that's a really important day for you to come if you can. Your opinion also matters. So we also include what your opinion is. So you are the viewer. You're the person seeing the art. So what you think about it does matter, whoever you are. So since you are a student and you're looking at these different pieces of art, you get to insert your own opinion, whether you like it or whether you don't like it. And then you can make those decisions. And then we analyze artworks to help us organize our thoughts, gain information, and form opinions about them. So we do this using the 4-step process that is description, analysis, interpretation, and evaluation. So description is just looking at it, describing it objectively, not passing any judgment. Analysis is looking at the piece of art and sort of picking out the elements and principles of art that we can see in it. Interpretation is how it makes you feel as the viewer. That's where your opinion comes in. And then evaluation is taking all of that together, the elements of art, the principles of design, the historical context, and your opinion, how it makes you feel, and deciding whether overall, did the artist achieve what they wanted to achieve? Is this a success or a failure? So that is the formal critique process, and I'm going to be overemphasizing that as we look through art